So I'm actually a very big fan of the JBL Partybox 520, Sony ULT Tower 9, and the Soundboks 4. All of these speakers are big and loud enough to where you won't want something bigger, but they're also not super overkill like either the JBL Partybox Ultimate or the Sony ULT Tower 10, where you might regret your purchase. But these speakers are very different from one another, so today we're going to compare the JBL Partybox 520, Sony ULT Tower 9, and the Soundboks 4, and let's see which one's right for you. We're going to pricing both the JBL Partybox 520 and Sony ULT Tower 9 retail for $900, whereas the Soundboks 4 used to retail for $1,000, but now it has a retail price of $1,200. Regardless, with all of these speakers, you do forget how much they actually cost when you're actually playing music with them. Nonetheless, if you want to pick any of these speakers up, they'll be linked down below, or you can always press on the YouTube shopping button, and if you want to further support the channel, then you can always pick up some merch. So first, there's the design of these speakers. Now, all of these speakers are large, but they are still very portable, and with both the JBL and Sony, both of these speakers have built-in wheels, so you can easily roll these speakers around, and these wheels are super chunky, so they're still going to be able to easily roll them around in the parking lot, or on a sidewalk, in the grass, or on a thick carpet. However, the Soundboks 4 is noticeably smaller and lighter than these other two speakers. The Soundboks 4 weighs in at 35 pounds, whereas the JBL weighs in at 56 pounds, and the Sony weighs in at 65 pounds. So, with the Soundboks 4, this speaker is going to be much easier to carry around, especially if you plan on going somewhere where you can't easily roll your speaker around, like let's say at the beach or into the woods for a camping site. Now, don't get me wrong, I would really like to see some retractable wheels built into the Soundboks 5 so that it can compete with either the JBL Partybox 520 or Sony ULT Tower 9, but with the Soundboks 4, this speaker is smaller and lighter than these other two speakers. The Soundboks 4 is also a lot more durable than these other two speakers as well. Both the JBL and Sony have a mostly plastic body which can get scratched very easily, and they both have a thin metal grille on the front which can get dented very easily as well. Whereas with the Soundboks, this speaker is a lot more durable because it has a thick steel grille on the front which doesn't bend as easily. It has an aluminum frame, wood panels, and silicone bowls on all of the corners. Plus, this speaker is rocking an IP65 rating, so it's dust and water resistant, whereas the JBL has an IPX4 rating and the Sony doesn't have any at all. Overall, if you're looking for something portable and a lot more durable, then the Soundboks 4 is the way to go here. However, something the Soundboks 4 just doesn't have is a light feature, but I guess that's the price that you have to pay for much better durability. Whereas both the JBL and Sony do have light features. Now, I like the light feature on the Sony. I think the floor lights gives this speaker a very big presence, especially at night, but I think the light feature on the JBL is a lot more impressive and dynamic. Plus, since the JBL is using Auracast, you can pair it up with JBL's party lights and extend your light feature if you want. So if you're looking for a speaker for your man cave or maybe your business, then you might want something with a light feature, but these light features do take their toll on the battery life. Now, when it comes to battery life, these speakers are very different from one another. The Sony does have slightly better stamina than the JBL, because with this speaker, if you were to use it at 40% volume and with the light feature turned off, but with the ULT feature turned on, it's going to be good for around 20 hours of playback time, which is already really good, and 40% volume is already a really good listening volume. But with the JBL Partybox 520, if you were to use this speaker at 40% volume as well, and with the light feature turned off, but with the bass boost feature turned off as well, it's going to be good for around 15 hours of playback time. Whereas with the Soundboks 4, this speaker is on a whole other level. With this speaker, if you were to use it at 40% volume while it's set to its dance EQ, it's going to be good for around 40 hours of playback time. And if you were to use this speaker at max volume, it's going to be good for around 6 hours of playback time. Whereas with these other two speakers, if you were to use them at max volume and with their light features turned on, they're going to be good for around 2.5 hours of playback time. However, the really cool thing about both the JBL and Soundboks 4 is that with both of these speakers, you can quickly and easily remove their batteries. So if you want, you can get multiple batteries and just keep the party going, or if you ever get to a point where your battery can no longer hold the charge, instead of having to buy a completely new speaker, all you need to do is just replace the battery, and this is just really good for the overall life of your investment. Now, to charge both the Sony and JBL, they both charge via a double barrel AC port, and when you use these speakers while they're plugged in, you are going to get a performance boost out of them. They're both going to get louder and they're both going to have more bass. Whereas with the Soundboks 4, this speaker does come included with an external power brick to charge your battery, and if you were to use this speaker while it's plugged in, you are not going to get a performance boost out of it. But then there are the ports on these speakers, and most importantly, both the Soundboks and JBL are using XLR combo jacks, so if you want, you can use these speakers with a mixer, which is really good for someone that might want to work as a DJ. Now, with the Sony, you can still use this speaker with a mixer, but you're either going to have to use an audio jack connection or a Bluetooth connection, which it does work, but it's not as solid as having an XLR input. But with all of these speakers, you can plug in two microphones for karaoke, or you can also plug in a guitar, but I think a microphone for karaoke is more important. But with both the Soundboks and JBL, you can adjust the sound of your microphone by adjusting the bass, or you can also adjust the treble, whereas with the Sony, you can't adjust the sound of your microphone. Now, with all of these speakers, you can use them with two wired mics, or if you want, you can use either JBL's or Sony's wireless microphone systems. Now, I do think JBL's mics sound better, and these mics do a much better job of not picking up any noise pollution when you're actually handling these mics. However, one thing that I do find very weird with JBL's mics is that the microphones themselves have a 20-hour battery life, whereas the receiver has a 12-hour battery life, whereas with Sony's wireless microphone system, both the microphones and the receiver have a 20-hour battery life. But something that I really like about the JBL Partybox 520 is that it does have a USB-C port, which you can use to charge your own phone, or you can also use it to charge your mics, and you can also use this USB-C port as a wired connection. Whereas the Sony has a USB-A port, which I don't feel is as convenient as having a USB-C port. However, you can plug in a USB stick and play music off of it if you want. And then there's the Soundbox, which just doesn't have a USB port, period. But with all of these speakers, they do have an audio jack, so you can use them with a wired connection that way. But more importantly, both the JBL and Soundboks do have an audio out jack, so if you want, you can always daisy chain them up to any other speaker, regardless of size or brand, and get them to play in sync. Now, the Sony doesn't have an audio jack, but it does have an optical port, so if you want, you can always connect the speaker up to your TV and use it as a soundbar, which I feel is super useful if you don't already have a big home theater system hooked up to your TV, or if you have a small soundbar. This way, you can still have a big sound when you're gonna have people over at the house to maybe watch the game or watch the fight. And when it comes to Bluetooth connectivity, the Soundboks can only be connected to one device at a time, whereas both the JBL and the Sony can be connected to two devices at the same time, so you and a friend can both be DJ. But wait, if you want to invest in quality crypto, then check out our partner, Coinbase. Coinbase makes it super easy to invest in quality crypto like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, or Chainlink. And if you sign up using the link down below, you can get up to $200 in crypto and jumpstart your investing journey. So again, check out Coinbase by clicking on the link down below and get up to $200 in crypto. But with all that out of the way, let's talk about sound. When it comes to speaker setups, these speakers are very different from one another. Now, the Soundboks 4 has dual front-mid-firing woofers with exhaust ports that shoot out the sides, and it has a single front-mid-firing tweeter. And with the Soundboks, one woofer prioritizes the bass, and the other woofer prioritizes the mid-lows. Then there's the JBL Partybox 520, which has dual front-mid-firing woofers with an exhaust port that shoots out the back, and dual front-mid-firing tweeters. And then there's the Sony ULT Tower 9, which has a front mid-firing woofer with a downward firing exhaust port. It has dual front mid-firing mid-range drivers, which just aren't found on these other two speakers, and it has quad tweeters, two that shoot out the front and two that shoot out the back. But then there's the ULT setting. ULT 1 is going to increase your bass, so this is the setting that you want to use while indoors, and ULT 2 is going to increase the bass, but it's also going to amplify your mids and highs, so this is the setting that you want to use while outdoors. The JBL has its bass boost. There's deep and punchy, and personally I prefer deep because it gives your bass more kick, whereas punchy it just adds a lot of resonance, so I do feel that it can muddle the rest of your music. And then there's the Soundboks, which has its stage, lounge, and dance settings. Dance floor is going to be your more balanced sound setting, but if you want to get the most out of this speaker, then you do want to use it while in its stage mode because you're going to have more bass. But now we're going to go ahead and jump into the sound test. All of these speakers are playing at 75% volume while unplugged.
I'm a la 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 loner, a la 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 loner. Every time I try to fit in, it ends up in misery, yeah. Socializing doesn't fit me, but I can get away so easy. I was born a misfit, don't go with the cool kids, it's all overrated. No, I never missed it. I was born a misfit, don't go with the cool kids, it's all overrated. I just didn't read it. I'm a la 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 loner, a la 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 loner, a la 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 loner. I'm an outlaw in this world. I'm solo dancing on your body, crazy on my own, but all in. I can feel the eyes all staring, but I don't care about them saying. I was born a misfit, don't go with the cool kids, it's all overrated. No, I never missed it. I was born a misfit, don't go with the cool kids, it's all overrated. I just didn't read it. I'm a la 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 loner, a la 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 loner, a la 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 loner. I'm an outlaw in this world. I'm a la 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 loner, a la 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 loner, a la 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 loner. I'm an outlaw in this world.
So simply put, the Sony Tower 9 just sounds way better than these other two speakers. The Sony Tower 9 just sounds a lot more open, fuller, and it has a much better instrument separation than these other two speakers thanks to the middle-range drivers, which is something these other two speakers just don't have, and it also has those quad tweeters. If you're looking for a good sounding speaker, then the Sony ULT Tower 9 is the way to go. Whereas with both the JBL Partybox 520 and Soundboks 4, these sound a lot more narrow than the Sony. But I actually prefer how the Soundboks sounds over the JBL Partybox 520, because I feel that it has a better mids and highs. But the thing with the Soundboks 4, its bass is mostly on the audible side. You can definitely hear it in the sound test, but in real life, the kick in its bass just doesn't compare to the kick in the bass found in the JBL Partybox 520. So with the Soundboks 4, this is a speaker that I would recommend to someone that plans on mostly using it while outdoors, which is fitting because this speaker is super durable and portable. And with the JBL Partybox 520, this speaker can be used as a hybrid, have outdoors and the other half indoors, because when indoors, I know you're going to want to have that kick in your bass. And then there's the max volume performance on these speakers, and all of these speakers get loud enough for like a 50% party, and I feel that they're all entering commercial use territory. But with both the JBL and Sony, when you use these speakers while they're plugged in, you are going to get a performance boost out of them. They're both going to get louder, and they're both going to have more bass. But overall, the Sony Tower 9 is the loudest speaker here, but more importantly, it's the best sounding speaker here as well. But finally, let's talk about pairing these speakers up with other speakers. Now, with both the JBL and Sony, if you have two of the exact same speakers, then you can wisely pair them up and get them to play in left and right stereo mode, but they have to be two of the exact same speakers. Whereas with the Soundboks 4, you can pair it up to a Soundboks 3 or to a Soundboks Go, and you can get them to play in left and right stereo mode. And with a Soundboks, you can actually get a 3-channel setup if you want, and you can pair up to a total of 5 Soundboxes together. Now, the Sony ULT Tower 9 is using Sony's wireless party chain, and you can pair it up to Sony's other speakers that are also using wireless party chain, like a Tower 10, Tower 9, XV800, XV500, or to the XP700 or XP500, or you can also pair it up to any of Sony's smaller speakers that are also using wireless party chain, like either the Sony ULT Field 7, ULT Field 5, ULT Field 3, or to the Sony XG500, XG300, XE300, XE200, or to the XP43, XP33, or XP23. The only thing is, you cannot connect your Sony ULT Tower 9 up to the Sony ULT Field 1 because the ULT Field 1 does not use Sony's wireless party chain. Whereas with the JBL Partybox 520, it's using Auracast, so you can pair it up to other Auracast speakers like, let's say, the Encore 2, Partybox 120, 320, 520, or 2 and Ultimate, and get them to all play in sync. Or you can also pair it up to JBL's smaller speakers that are also using Auracast, like a Charge 6, Extreme 4, Flip 7, Go 4, or to a Clip 5. And you can also connect your JBL Partybox 520 up to any of JBL's older party boxes that are using TWS, like either the original Encore or Partybox 110, 310, or 710. The only thing is, you can only have a total of 2 speakers wirelessly paired to one another. But also keep in mind, you cannot connect your JBL Partybox 520 up to any of JBL's older speakers that are using Party Boost, like either a JBL Boombox 3, Boombox 2, Extreme 3, Charge 5, Pulse 5, Pulse 4, Flip 6, or to a Flip 5. But also, with Auracast, you'll be able to connect your JBL Partybox 520 to other non-JBL speakers that are also using Auracast. And like I mentioned earlier, both the JBL and Soundboks do have that audio out jack, so you can always daisy chain them up to any other speaker, regardless of size or brand, and get them to play in sync. But with all that being said, I think all of these speakers are great, but they are very different from one another. Now, I think the Sony ULT Tower 9 is the best sounding speaker here. It sounds the most open and most balanced, and it has the best instrument separation thanks to the mid-range drivers, which just aren't found on these other 2 speakers and those quad tweeters. But I feel that this speaker is best for at-home use. If you're looking for something a lot more portable and durable, then the Soundboks 4 is the way to go. It's the smallest and most rugged speaker here, and its sound performance lends itself to outdoor use. Plus, it also has a larger battery here, and you can also use it as a DJ if you want. And then there's the JBL Partybox 520. This is the most versatile speaker here. It's super portable as well, but it is a little heavier and less durable than the Soundboks. But it also has a lot more versatility than the Sony because it has those XLR combo jacks, a swappable battery, a USB-C port, and it has that great looking light feature if you want. However, I do feel that this is the worst sounding speaker here because it sounds the most narrow by comparison, but its bass does have more kick to it than the bass found on the Soundboks 4. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit the like button and get subscribed. If you want to pick any of the products up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch. I made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And you know I can be very particular, so I'll only slap my name on something if I'm really proud of it.